Welcome back to the Rise with Anita podcast, or welcome if you're new here. This is a space where ambition meets embodiment and where soul meets strategy, and where we don't just talk about transformation, we actually experience it. And today's conversation is such a powerful one. I am joined by Cat Caldwell Myers. She's an author, podcaster, recently dropped TEDx speaker, and the creator of the Adventure Paradox movement. Her work blends mindfulness, nature, and deep personal transformation, often through the powerful presence of animals, especially horses. Cat helps women ground in their bodies, find their voice, and step into a life that actually feels aligned, not just on looking good on the outside, but deeply aligned on the inside. And before we dive in, I'm going to ask if both you, the listener, and Kat, and everyone listening right now, will take a second to just arrive in this moment. So if you're able to, place your feet gently on the ground, relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, and we're going to take a slow, deep breath in through your nose for the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to release through the mouth by 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, just taking another deep breath in, allowing yourself to feel your center and letting it go. Just noticing, where am I right now? What am I carrying in this moment? And allowing yourself the proper ability to land and be centered just a little more. There's no need to change anything. It's just about the awareness. And from that place is where we begin our interview.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for this conversation and just to have your beautiful energy here. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's my honor. Thank you for the invitation. And hello, listeners. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I'm here and breathing with Anita. It's awesome.
Full circle moment. So before we dive in, I always start off the podcast by asking this simple question. What is bringing you joy in this current season?
Horses. We have a new baby who came in with the fire horse energy. Her name is Twinkle. And she is a mama horse. She has blue eyes and this beautiful white cream colored coat. And she's a gaited horse, which is like a fifth gait. Not all horses have a fifth gait. They're bred for this fifth gait. It's a really weird feeling to ride it if you've never ridden it before. And she has been teaching me and my children and all of my beloveds so much. And she's been bringing so much joy. And not all of it is happy joy. Some of it is like this deep awareness, understanding of how the world works, joy. And yeah, horses on every level.
What an on-brand answer, honestly.
I mean, okay.
And in such a beautiful way. I love that it's something that you're so enmeshed with. I've never met anyone who loves animals and horses and all of the nature world quite the way you do. And it's just such an honor to watch you as you're like navigating this intricate balance of like wellness, mindfulness, and nature in its truest form.
Yeah, totally. So good.
So good. So I'd love to start here. Can you take us back into your own story in your words? What led you to the work that you do today?
You know, honestly, I think the deepest work, you're not even led to it, you just are it. Like it
Mm-hmm.
just is you. So early on, I was obsessed with horses. It's just always been in my blood. I was the horse girl in school. And then, in adolescence, you kind of go into that space of wanting to be like everybody else and maybe not wanting to be different. And I had a moment of really recognizing that horses were my portal And they were like my exit. Even though I was so different from other people, there were gifts and there were sort of the joy paradox, things that were not a gift. My children were actually asking me this question recently about friends. And we're talking about kind of losing your first friends and friend dynamics changing and seasons changing. My kids are 8 and 10. And I told them about being in junior high, and I was at a horse show for a weekend, and I was a working student at a barn, and that was pretty common. I was gone a lot of weekends. I was really head down busy with horses. And all of my friends, quote unquote, we had a class of 56, and 26 of them spiked the punch at a school dance. And I showed up Monday morning, Anita, and they were all expelled or suspended. Literally, the class had been cut in half. And it was so interesting because it was my moment of recognizing there are always going to be things that happen that you'll miss because you're on your mission of who you are and where you're supposed to be. And you won't then be in the, dance where maybe I would have gotten in trouble too with spiking the punch, who knows? So I feel like it's just inherently who I am. And for me, a big part of returning to my body and supporting others to do like deep somatic work in their bodies is about just connecting in real space with horses. It's not about pretending to be anything else because horses are so deeply authentic. I mean, they are emotional sponges. Like whatever you say you have going on, they're like, that. I think you're like this. Like a person will show up and be like, yeah, I'm ready. I want to do all this. I'll be like, okay, do you really want to ride? Do you really want to ride? Or are we going to work on groundwork? Because with horses, when we talk about groundwork, it's the grounding of literally being on the ground with them, with their hooves, right? Which are deeply connected to the earth. And so then we can connect through them. They have twice as many feet as we do. So they're so deeply grounding. And a lot of people, actually, what they really want is just to connect with a horse on the earth, like our ancestors did long before we got on their backs.
Wow. Beautiful answer. And I love that you bring it back to just coming home to yourself, essentially, or staying home within yourself more so is the proper way to say it. Because it's like we can get so distracted by trying to fit the molds when in reality is we're being asked to just shine our own light, shine who we actually are.
Totally. Yeah. This actually came up this morning. I was running a live panel with four of the most incredible equine assisted learning coaches, mentors, folks who have horses, made model horses of their horses, Breyer horses. They've written books. They're in and out of schools. One of them is actually in Israel right now, working with veterans, right? But we talked about this sort of showmanship aspect of horses where, Anita, if you wanted to go start riding horses right now, you would find trainers and the trainer would like invite you into their program. And this happened to me. I was a working student in high school. You know what my trainer wanted me to be? She wanted me to be a junior Olympic rider. You know why? Because that reflected well on her. Because if she gets someone to the junior Olympics, that says something about her as a trainer. But that was not ever my calling. And don't get me wrong, I have a thing about the gold medal, the podium, the Olympics, right? Like doing the best, being the best, really like getting past the point of it even being about us. The credit goes to the one in the arena for the competition. However, not all of us are designed to be Olympians, right? And for me, I'm really designed to take people deep into connection with themselves in nature with horses. That's always been what I've loved. I want to go out with them in their natural habitat and just remember like, birds chirping, wind blowing, like here we are connected in real space and real time. And we don't get to make the show. Something else is making the show happen and we're connected to this bigger thing. So it's interesting because that paradox, I know we're in some similar fields and in the virtual business space, it's like big shiny numbers. Look, I'm doing the things, the TEDx talk, like all of this stuff, you know what I mean? And the reality is it's so humbling, right? Like what it actually takes to go the distance to do that. And then it's just a thing. It's like the gold medal. You know what I mean? Like it's a thing, right? It's like the competition and sometimes all the stars will align and sometimes they won't. And you're here to do your mission of who you are, regardless of how it comes out, right? It's so key. It's not just the performance, right? It's the being of who you are.
That brings us to why we call ourselves human beings, not human doings, because it's about our essence coming back home to who our actual true self is versus who we think we should be. And it's interesting that you bring up the online space because a lot of times I feel like we get into this place of like bigger, better, bigger, better. And it's like not necessarily what is enough,
Mm,
but driving your point home about how am I making sure that as I'm pushing the grid, I am still showing up as myself?
mm, yeah,
Because that's a delicate balance of am I going to lose myself in this process of this journey?
totally. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, it was funny. Hold on, I'm grabbing some chapstick because my lips are dry. I had a totally teachable moment today, Anita. Okay. So I'm in this summit and we're talking about like the trainer and someone else creating your dream for you. Right. And I realized me running this summit is following someone's summit strategy. And am I doing this sort of my way, or am I doing this because this is what those who have come before me have shared? This is the way to do it. You know what I mean? It's like so interesting to catch yourself in those teachable moments where you realize you think you're doing it your way, but actually, are you? And sometimes you don't know until later. Like this is my second summit, and this one I'm doing a lot more my way, but I'm also going back and recognizing, oh, the reason you have best practices on like reminding people to send out certain emails is because otherwise they don't. You know? So it's really interesting that paradox of like you want someone who's done it, who knows, and then you're also a different person, right? Like just because the Olympian was trained by this trainer 5 years ago doesn't mean that this is the trainer for you to become an Olympian with, or that you're even meant to be an Olympian.
Beautiful. This is an off the cuff question, but I'm just going to ask it. How
Mhm.
would you say you recognize whether something is for you or not?
Yeah, I tap into my gut. You know, I've also learned I'm a projector in human design. It's important for me not to say yes in the energy of that moment. I need to like sit with it. I need to take it home, meditate on it a little bit. If I say yes in the heat of the moment, I am more likely to have regrets and sort of second guess it or just have it be harder to come around to it, if that makes sense. So it's really important for me to like sit with it, let it integrate into my nervous system, and keep waking up to it as like a part of my life, as opposed to, oh, what if I did this? Because, oh, I'm all excited, right? Like you get to the end of the Tony Robbins thing and they're like selling the thing and you're like, yeah, 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 let's go. And then you're like, I'm never gonna be able to make this thing. Like, why did I sign up for this? I can't make these calls. I always, whatever it is. So I've really learned like, I need to be like, oh, thank you for asking me. Let me take a moment. Let me get back to you. Is like, those are the most powerful words. Let me get back to you.
Beautiful. Interesting you bring up the basically the power of the pause. How long is your pause period usually for a decision?
Hmm. So I'm in recovery. I don't know if you know that, but I've lived a life free of drugs and alcohol by the grace of God for 17 years. And in
Amazing.
recovery, we say that however many years you have is the amount of time you have in seconds to pause. Meaning, if someone's been sober for 6 months, they have a half second pause before they might say yes to that next drink. So I
Mm.
would say at this point, I probably have about a 17-second pause of like, let me really breathe through that a little bit. Let me take a few breaths and get back to you.
Beautiful answer. So I'm curious because our childhoods were vastly different. What did barn and working with horses that give you that you weren't getting elsewhere?
Mm. So there came a time, I think I was maybe 10 or 11 years old, where I was taking so many acting lessons. I was part of a drama club and so many riding lessons. I don't know if it was one or two a week, whatever it was, but my mom said it's got to be one or the other. The barn was like a 30-minute drive out of town. She was hoping I'd pick drama, but we all know where this went. So, something that one of my guests in the live panel of the Spiritual Horse Seekers Summit today asked is, what is a word for that thing beyond what we can describe in terms of emotion or mental or physical connection between horse and human. And I would say it's spiritual. It's something that is beyond what we can tangibly measure in the physical realm. Something beyond what we can measure, checking your pulse or your vitals, right? Something beyond what you can put into words, writing an essay or a book or like making a movie even or creating something. It's like, this is something that you have to experience to truly understand. And by the way, not everybody has it. Like I have had people come into connection with horses and they either don't like horses, they have a fear of horses. We carry trauma in our DNA. So maybe they had an ancestor who had a deep trauma. Maybe they're picking up on the trauma from the horse. Another part of our deep conversation this morning is like, how are you responsible for what the horse might be experiencing, right? And so for me, unlike acting, you're really stepping out of the performance and into the authenticity of the moment, which I went back and looked at like, well, what word would I say? Maybe it's Om, from yoga, right? Like it's the word that connects everything in the universe, right? All things as they are, complete peace, harmony, unity, right? Like it's a sleeping state, it's a waking state, it's the state of consciousness, right? And that is something that I get through interspecies communication, specifically with horses, but I can experience it with cats and dogs and other animals as well, that we don't have in, quote, just the human realm.
Beautiful. Do you mind giving an example?
Of interspecies communication? Okay.
Yes.
If you guys have not listened to the telepathy tapes, I strongly recommend getting into those. Do you know about the telepathy tapes?
I do not. So
Okay.
I'm here with an open mind and an open heart. So
Okay. So the telepathy tapes is one of the highest performing podcasts of all time. If you haven't checked it out yet, you definitely want to go check it out as a podcaster. I was told you should listen to it from the beginning to the end. So essentially, the quick premise on the telepathy tapes is that it's nonverbal autistic adults and teenagers mostly who are communicating with one another and with their caretakers telepathically all around the world. Okay.
wow.
It will blow your mind. And the reason I bring it up is because there's a whole section about animals and how they are connecting with their animals and their animals are connecting with them and sending each other messages. So I have had moments where I've walked out to my horses and asked them questions or just like known things without having any reason that I should know this. I just know it intuitively. And to me, the more time I spend with the horses, the more I know that. So I'll show you a picture of my grandma. Hang on, it's right here. She's in my ancestral feng shui corner. So this
Beautiful.
is my grandma Jojo jumping a horse with no helmet in the hills of California, probably in the 40s or late 30s, I would say. And I asked her at one point, she was incredibly intuitive. And so she knew she was looking for a Fortune 500 CEO position for my Grandpa Wiley. Okay, that's a pretty big ask, right? And she knew that if she got into this bridge club, she was somehow going to be able to line up with the wife of the current CEO and get an introduction. Sure enough, she did. And then they were at a cocktail party for this country club or something. And because she'd stepped into the bridge thing and met the person, she knew who she was and she was able to make the introduction. And my grandpa became the first non-family member CEO of this Fortune 500 company. So I asked my grandma, I said, how did you know that? Know how to hook that up? And you know what she said to me, Anita? She said, dear, I think it was the horses. And when I understood that, I understood when you work with horses and you start visualizing for your horse because they communicate with us telepathically, I want you to move up to this gate with me, to stand sideways, to stand still. I'm going to lean down and pick up the chain. We're going to open the gate. We're going to move together, opening the gate. Then we're going to turn and we're going to close the gate together. And you're not going to wiggle and you're not going to jiggle and it's going to go smoothly. This is all telepathic communication. We also refer to it as visualization. But this is how horses communicate, and this is how humans communicate too when we step into that field. But not all of us are practicing how to do that or would even understand that because most of us are so far from horses now.
Wow. Well, that was a great lesson in itself. And it's interesting because you bring up the point of visualization. And it's like, how often do we just not even recognize, like, you could be visualizing even just a basic conversation with a person? And that could be a gate, very much like your story.
Yes, I've been geeking out on feng shui lately, by the way. And I've been listening to Marie Diamond, who did a really awesome. Do you know her?
I She's coming on the podcast later this month.
Okay, okay. Well, I would love an introduction and tell her I've been geeking out and that I was talking about her. So here's the thing. I literally have been feng shuiing the beep out of my life lately, okay? And here's the thing, listening to her and thinking about how am I organizing my space? This is totally how horses are. When I work with someone working with a horse, you put a new plant in the middle of the field, they're like, what's that? Why is it there? Does it belong there? You change where you put the water, it impacts them. It can impact them on a deep spiritual level, just like us. So, anyways, I bring it up because she talks about helping some of her clients visualize getting their next Oscar and that they have their Oscars, but not in the right place, feng shui wise. And she teaches them to put it in the right place. Another guest wants to be on the Oprah show. She teaches them how to put it into the right space. So, something I've been thinking a lot about in my energetic field of my office right here is like, what am I looking at? Right? So I just shared with you one of my ancestors in my ancestral corner, right? I'm looking at her. She's inspiring me. Am I doing right by what she would say? Am I speaking for her and those who came before me, right? And then I'm looking at things that I'm present to right now. Like, how are we setting ourselves up in the field, both inside and outside, to truly deliver our gifts? Feng shui.
Ooh, I love that. So, funny enough, just because we were segueing into all the woo.
Yeah, let's go deep.
Let's go deep. So I did a recent astrology reading specifically on my business, and I have a Taurus midhaven. I'm not going to get into all the details of what that means, but one of the questions my astrologer actually asked me was, how do you like the space of your office where you create from? And then she was like, I noticed you're always in the same background. Like, does it inspire you? And I was like, yeah, it's like, this is what I really wanted. And she was like, I would get like some plants in there, do something to like bring in that like Venus energy where you feel called and like beautified, and like
Mm.
have your crystal corner. And I was like, I actually do have a crystal corner. You just can't see it on camera. But it was this whole thing, and it reminded me like how important our space is for what we're cultivating, especially in creative careers and careers that are so about like using your voice.
Mm, totally.
And actually, this we've had a discussion where the tables were turned about how I was bringing in using my voice as a way of honoring my family. I'm curious, what does that look like for you at this point in time? How are you honoring the women in your family that are either with you or not have that may not have expressed as openly before?
Yeah, so my grandma Jojo, who I just showed you the picture of, she's on the other side, working her magic for me. So I get to connect with her a lot. She actually, I have this beautiful desk here that's hers. Uh, she is in my space and in my energy in a lot of ways. And at the end of her life, she was slipping a little bit mentally. She had dementia.
Mhm.
And that was a very interesting space to really connect with her physical being. We did a lot of like lotion and touch, and there were moments that I've had to work on my own forgiveness practice of things I heard and things that were said and done that I can never unsee or undo. And so I think it's important, especially with a beloved who has passed on, if there might have been any sort of energetic exchange like that, to acknowledge if you're still carrying it. Let that go. Like, let it go. It was just the last chapter in whatever way. And then my other grandmother, so I have a grandma and a grandmother, is still here with us on the earthly plane. And I actually speak about her at great length because she was really my hands-on horse teacher for Grandmother's Week. Every week in my TEDx talk, I talk about her and talk about the lessons she taught and how she would literally set the energetic tone. She's also a very private person. So in part, like the amount that I shared in that TEDx talk, that's as far as I would go. But with Grandma JoJo, because she has passed on and she has left me with all of these beautiful things, one of which is called the white rug, Anita, and I'm feeling called to share this with you. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I talk about this in my book, actually, which is right here, my first book, The Adventure Paradox, How to Haul It All, Go Big, and Go Home in Your Relationships. So this is this incredible horse road trip we took of 6,000 miles, okay? And so it's like the story followed by your own self-reflection journaling at the end of each chapter of what was going on. I was traveling with a newborn, a 2-year-old, a nanny, 3 horses, a dog, my husband part-time because he was in Dubai working part-time. It was a pretty crazy journey. And at the same time, my grandma JoJo was trying to move out of her home of 47 years while also losing her mind. So she kept calling me and saying, "Can I talk to you, dear, about the white rug?" And I'd be like, "Yes, Grandma, you can talk to me. I'm driving a big horse trailer, across the country, but I can talk for a minute. What is it?" And she'd be like, "Well, dear, nobody wants the white rug. And you're the one who lives closest, so I really need you to take the white rug, but it's really hard to keep clean. Do you think you can do it?" And I'm thinking, I live on a ranch with small children and lots of mud. Yes, Grandma, I can take the white rug. And the deal with the family was like, please just tell her you'll take it so we can move on to the next thing, because she had categorized all the things in her home of 47 years, all these valuable possessions that she could not take with her. And everybody had to decide what they wanted. And I was like, listen, I'm the only one who lives in Chicago. I will happily take the white rug. We will store it in my bed. Like, it's fine, right? And so what's come through, Anita, since we've now moved across the country and I've carried this white rug with me, which by the way is huge. It's like 20 by 30 plus feet. It's huge. I don't have a room big enough for it to fit in this house. But I do have a space, and we all have a space of letting go of what our ancestors passed on to us that we need no longer carry. So the white rug retreat is actually stepping onto this white rug, sharing in ceremony what your ancestors gave to you, and then stepping off the rug into the field with the horses of what it is that you want to keep and take with you, and letting go of the rest. And by the way, since it's the year of the fire horse, we will be burning some of that stuff, not the white rug, but we will be burning our own things at the white rug retreat. So this has been like ways that I'm incorporating their messages, their gifts, but also with my medicine that I feel God has given me and is asking me to share with others.
Beautiful answer and very interesting story about the white rug. I mean, wow, it's just, I love that you brought it home to releasing perhaps patterns, beliefs, stories, everything in between that gets passed down generationally. Because, I mean, I often talk about how, especially as women, a lot of patterns are ingrained in us before we even get a chance to fully merge into our own world. So it's like, how do we release what's no longer serving us so that perhaps our future generations don't have to do the clearing work themselves?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So I'm so curious with the connection of healing and animals, especially horses. Why do you feel that animals are such powerful mirrors for people, especially women who feel disconnected from themselves?
Mm. Well, let's talk about horses first. And foremost, and maybe only. No, okay. Are there any other animals? Okay, okay. No, the reason that I really want to focus on horses, a huge distinction between horses and say cats or dogs. Even though we have partnered with cats, I believe 16,000 years, dogs about 12,000 years domestically. So that's pretty amazing, right? So if you think back, like, how did that start? Well, with the pharaohs, right? Like with like really sacred cats, how did that start? And then with the dogs hunting together, right? Hey, this guy's way better at going and getting it than I am. What if we could partner and I will help them keep their babies alive? But horses are quite different because they're prey animals. These guys are all predators, and we've only been working with them, prey animals, for 5 or 6 thousand years. Now, if we group these prey animals, say, with ox, other prey animals, sheep, goats, etc., a lot of them used for sacrifice, right? And horses sacrificed their bodies, sacrificed their souls, sacrificed themselves for the quote good of humanity. They helped us build huge empires. They helped us go into battle. They helped us with power, right? All of these things. So if you think about all of that, and then you think about women, and you think about the oppression of women historically, can you see why I'm saying horses are the important teachers to talk to and connect with? Because they are very much in the Me Too movement for 5 or 6 thousand years. And I'm not saying that this didn't happen with cats or dogs, but cats or dogs have fangs, right? And they can attack in a way that's very different from a horse who's a prey animal who has been taught to have power or dominance over them with a lot of tools that have been pretty awful, right? Kinds of enslavement, if you will, right? Women too. So this is part of why the power of the work of trauma work, and this guest I had on from Israel who's working with Vietnam vets in trauma, and everyone who's connecting women to work through their own trauma with a horse who may also be working through trauma. Next week on the Spiritual Horse Seekers panel, we have 4 different guests, and one of them is a mover and a shaker in the world of Mustangs. Mustangs are wild horses that have not been born into domestication, okay? And she was like followed around by National Geographic. They did a whole series on her, and she was one of the top 100 Mustang makeover gals. Like, she's amazing. Mary Miller Jordan, incredible gal. And the point is, women are wildness, right? Like when we're allowed to tap into our actual essence without being tamed, but partnering. Because we want to share it. We want to share this incredible wildness that we have, right? Beautiful thing.
Mm.
So this is why I feel like when you really go deeper, this is why Vogue magazine did a whole thing about women and equine assisted healing. It's because there's something very sacred happening when we partner with a prey animal who's bigger than us, and they're bigger than our problems to help us get through to the other side.
Beautiful answer. What do horses pick up on that we often ignore within ourselves?
Everything. I mean, again, you have to recognize they're prey animals. So one little thing out of place, like if I walk out there with my hat on backwards, you know what I mean? They'll be like, you look weird. And I'll be like, yeah, I'm feeling weird too, because you know what? The hat is beveled and it's like tight in the back now, right? So they notice absolutely everything. They pick up the smell, they pick up the emotion, they pick up what you're thinking about. They pick up your attention, right? They are emotional sponges. And I think that they're spiritual connectors and conduits too. Once we tap into saying, hey, I'd like to partner with you spiritually, they're like, cool, I've been waiting for you. Let's go.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So is this something that you've passed on with your children already? Where it's
Oh, yeah.
like you've taught them how to navigate a horse and how to kind of use it for healing or use it to process.
Yeah. So I'm rolling out a horse adventure coaching certification right now. This is for folks like yourself who might want to use horses in their existing business and have a better understanding of all these principles that I'm talking about. But it's been really fun to witness people coming to the ranch and my children want to partner in teaching them because, they grew up with this work. Like they were literally born into the pasture, right? So I had a gal this week and I was teaching how to call a horse's energy in without saying anything at all, and then how to catch them, say, with just the shirt off your back. These are some of the lessons, right? How did our ancestors do this? Let's not overcomplicate this. You don't need a halter. You don't need all of these things. Yeah, it's easier if you have a halter, but you can still connect and you can still guide them and you can still trust and have this safety connection. So watching my kids who are like, "Oh, yeah, Laura, watch the body language. Let the hip turn. Bring him in with your with your treats, you know? It's really cool to witness that it's being passed on and to think about like our ancestors, they just knew this because they were just born into it, right? And
Yeah.
why it's so important for this next generation. I mean, one of my guests this morning, she wrote a whole series called Hoofbeats Through History. And it's the horse's perspective on every historical chapter of civilization, right? Like, how did they see us? It's really cool, right? In what they were being asked to do. And then she goes into schools with kids who have never even been in the presence of a horse, which, by the way, is the majority of people at this point in 2026. So this is why, like, my deepest calling is to bring 1 million people into connection with horses every year, preferably in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. But wherever you are, wherever you need to do it, deep spiritual connection.
Beautiful. It's funny. I haven't been on a horse in years, but there's this like classic story of, I guess I was like 2, 3, somewhere around there, less than like 5. And we were at this like fair and they had horses. Well, it wasn't a fair, it was like this park that had horses that they were allowing kids to hop on. And I made my poor grandparents sit there in line for an hour and get up to the horse and I look at the horse and I'm like, peace out. Nope, I'm not getting on it. And they that day let me like basically kill an hour of their time. But
Mm,
eventually I got on it. And it's interesting because I still remember how nervous I was at first
yeah.
until I realized I had nothing to be worried about. And the horse was actually calmer than I was. And so it was like I was regulating with the horse without obviously having the language for it because I was so small. But it's something I often think about in terms of they are actually very kind creatures. It's just most of us don't get that exposure, especially if you grew up in a city.
Totally. Yeah, that was a very common theme this morning among the panelists is like the horses holding our peace and us being the ones coming in with like whatever else we have going on, right? And they're like, hey, hey, I'm here to hold you. Like, I got you, you know? So I think what I hear with that, and I talked about this on the Spiritual Ascension Summit for Entrepreneurs, but the first level of certification is really on this side of the arena where you get to understand them and read them until you're ready to go over. So I love that even at a very young age, you were like, see ya, and you peaced out. And then later, when you came back on and you got on the horse and co-regulated, the horse was like, you said peace out, I will give you peace, right? Can't make this stuff up. Like this is where you asked earlier, like, what is it about horses that you could get that you wouldn't get in some other sort of childhood, right? It's beyond words. Like you really have to step into it to experience it. And that's why it's so fun to bring people into VIP retreats and coming out to Jackson where they're like, whoa, it's like nothing I've ever seen, right? And having the only airport that's inside a national park, like all the things that we have here that make it so unique, not just the horses, the wildlife, that essential nature, like erase all the cityscape and return to what is absolutely pure that God created. Then tell me who you are.
Beautiful. Shifting gears, I'm curious from your perspective, because you do a lot of body work. What happens when a woman who's been in her head finally drops into her body within that environment with the horses?
Mm. I think everybody takes a breath. So one thing you'll see with horses when they feel relaxed or they feel that someone's in their integrity or authenticity, speaking from truth, they will do this. We call that horse lips. They'll take a big snort and then they'll do this and they'll lick their lips. That is a sign that they are now comfortable with you. And for me, recognizing like, oh, okay, am I now comfortable with myself? Like Anita, I have done a lot of work around body image, a ton. Okay. I did my whole senior project in high school around it because I felt so disconnected from my body, right? It was up in my head. I wanted to look like the models, all that stuff, right? And for me, doing my TEDx talk, which you'll have to go see, I have a little bit of a belly roll in it. And so when I watch that TEDx talk, it's amazing to hear that little voice of, ooh, you shouldn't have worn that. Oh, why didn't you double check that? And to be like, wow, can still have that insecurity there and not see like, hey man, you did it. Right? Remember how you were so sick you almost lost your voice and started coughing that day and you were just trying to hold it together to get through the TEDx talk? Like, remember that? You made it, right? So for me, it's like deeply stepping into the authenticity of how everything comes together. That's what the horses do, right? Like you can make a plan for how it's all going to go, but then the wind changes, right? And the
Yeah.
horse is right there for it. And are you meeting them where they are, or are you still in your head about, oh, we got to get through the certification, like we got to do this? No, no, no. We got to meet them right there. Like, oh, hey, you don't want to get on? I don't think you want to get on today, do you? No, actually, I'm really nervous about riding. Hey, how about we just learn how to groom them, connect with them, and pick up their soul, which is in their hoof and ground.
Beautiful answer. Speaking of body image and the work that you did, what was your first turning point for you in terms of body image that made you recognize, like, I need to shift this or I need to
Yeah.
come from a different perspective? And who did you rely on to help you through that at such a young age?
So in adolescence, I did this huge research project. I was at a boarding school. There were a lot of like sit in someone's room and look at beauty magazines and compare and body slam each other, right?
Yeah.
And I recognized, like, wow, I don't think this is helpful for me. Like, this is not making me feel better. I love our boy Dean Graziosi. He says, like, figure out the things that when you do them, you feel better, do more of those. And the things that when you do them, you feel worse, yeah, do less of those, right? So, like, as a teenage girl, body shaming, and I can't imagine what it's like for today's youth with Instagram and social media and all that, right?
Yeah,
Like, good
right.
golly, Molly. But I recognized like this is not right. This is not setting me up to like go out and connect with my horses and be my highest best self. This is setting me up to be in shame, to be like writing down all of my body parts and ranking them for myself at night and trying to do sit up. Like this isn't working. And so I started reading a book called The Body Project, which was incredible. I read probably like 10 books, and then I interviewed over 100 women about their bodies. And I remember one woman I interviewed on a chairlift in Aspen about having lots of cosmetic surgery, right? And she was basically like, everything makes me feel better every time I do another snip or a cut, but it also is addictive because I'm never good enough and I can always keep changing and getting, and me being like, wow, I have no interest in that for me personally. Like, that's you would actually cut yourself. Like, whoa, that is not for me. Like, that was very clear for me at a young age. I'm so glad that that has continued to be something for me. And I'm not saying that from a place of judgment. I'm just saying each of us must find our way to our own truth. So I got that one
Mm.
early. And then from there, I broke my neck in a horseback riding accident. And I was in a neck brace for 6 months. And I lost a lot of weight. Because I'll tell you what, when I wasn't actively out doing things, I didn't really have much of an appetite. And suddenly I had this new body that was totally unfamiliar to me that was getting a lot more attention from men than it had been in the past, right? I was like a thin, normal body weight, and people were attracted to me in ways that I had maybe been sort of covering myself up a little bit, I recognized, and eating from stress, from the stress of all these thoughts, right, about myself. I had a tag in high school that I found that said, don't weigh your self-esteem. So I was big on the like, don't weigh yourself. If it's going to make you feel bad, don't weigh yourself. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Right. Then I went to the University of Colorado at Boulder and I started putting weight on, freshman 15, right? The whole thing. And I realized like, wait a second, my body is malleable. Like, if I can have an overweight body, I could also have a thinner body. How do I keep this thinner body and what was most important to me, strong body, to be able to do the things I want to do? Like, I wanted to be a river guide. I knew that. I wasn't allowed to be a river guide my first summer after breaking my neck. I wasn't allowed to ride horses for a couple of years. I had to be very careful about fall activities. Almost paralyzed, right? So I took a 10 pack with a personal trainer who absolutely changed my life. She taught me how to train, how to work out, how to like really deeply get into my body. I'd been all about dance. I liked a little bit of yoga, but I'd never really trained my muscles in this way. And what I found was, wow, I didn't know all of this until later when I owned a women's fitness club, right? But like every pound of muscle that you have burns 50 calories at rest per hour. So if you have a lot of muscle, you can eat a lot more food and you're going to metabolize it. It's like just these incredible things. And you can change your fitness age by growing more muscle and more stamina, right? Like we can change our fitness at any time. And the paradox is, inevitably, when you start playing with training your physical body a lot, you're going to come up upon injuries, sickness, physical limitations, and then have to work through those. So for me, it was kind of like a journey. It started with like really getting into the mental, what the heck is going on here, right, in high school, building up some spiritual armor about like, don't weigh your self-esteem, then stepping into, oh, wait, my body could change with muscle if I train it, right? And pairing those two together. Then later, when I owned the fitness club, part of that was taking people through a weight loss journey, which is really being disciplined about your food. I mean, this is one of the fruits of the spirit, self-control, right? And I had never practiced that. And I had never practiced being honest about getting on the scale and seeing, hey, where am I today? Where do I want to go? What's the work that I've done? Not from a place of shaming, but from a place of possibility and expansion, right? And so the thing is, like, if you bring this back to horses, a lot of women, they are trying to get into Wonderland, which is 100 digits up to 199, right? Is Wonderland, okay? Because most horse places won't let you ride their horses if you're over 200 or 250 pounds, because they have to have bigger horses for that. Well, guess what? Very large percentage, we have an obesity epidemic, are larger. So learning how to, not from a place of shame, just love yourself and fully step into the body that you have, regardless of what it is, but also knowing you can change. If you feel called to change, if you're maybe feeling like when I put on more weight, I feel more sluggish, I feel more tired. And then when I drop that weight, I'm like, energy's back, my metabolism's working right, my knees are happy, I'm at a good weight, I've got my muscle. So I feel like that was a very long answer to a very short question, but hopefully it served the listeners.
Beautiful answer. I think it's great because you also brought it back to the present day of like how you see it. I know for me, having been on a body journey myself, it can be daunting if you're not aware. And especially, I speak a lot about disconnection from the body and how we don't recognize, and it goes back further than just how you're eating, but what emotions are you feeling or not feeling? And how does that react in your body? And I've recently, because I've started to write my first book, I'm a little bit behind, but we're doing it. And you start to recognize, especially when you're doing a book that's kind of like an autobiography of your own patterns. And so because I had recognized years ago the disconnection between body and what I was processing and suppressing, it didn't really surprise me that I got to the weight that I had originally gotten to. And so it was like, once you learn it, then it becomes the question of how do I process these emotions in a healthy way where it's not necessarily, I'm not a binge eater. I wouldn't say I've ever really fully identified with that. I have momentaries of that, but for me, the biggest thing was I would not feel the emotions. And if you have bad habits in line with that, suppression eventually hits you in the metabolism and whatnot. And a lot of people miss that. So I think there's just a beautiful through line between our work of like, hey, you have to really get centered, get honest, get grounded, but also be compassionate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you've created something, shifting a little bit of a gear, called the adventure paradox. And I love the concept, but can you give our readers what that truly means to you?
Your readers?
Listeners.
We're projecting!
Yes. Oh my God, great catch.
Going into your book, I'm a good listener, see. Yeah, okay. So the adventure paradox came out of my book, which again is here, my first book. And You know, I originally toyed with the title of The Adventure Cure because I think similar to reaching your goal weight, it's like you're going to get there and then what? Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people will set out for their adventure. TEDx, right? Could be your adventure. Getting to the top of the Grand Teton could be your adventure. Riding a horse,
Everest. Yeah.
Everest, fill in the blank, right? But the thing is, you have all that energy, adrenaline, thought going towards the adventure. You have the adventure itself. And then you have your entire lifetime after the adventure is complete. And so, in that, I believe we have what I call the paradox, which is that there are these certain things that you're going to need no matter what adventure you're on. So, for example, sleep. I had a weird night this week where I woke up in the middle of the night. I had been moving panels, which are like really heavy 50, 100-pound metal things that hold horses. And I woke up so sore. My body was like, oh, I'm really hurting. Very unusual for me. And I realized, like, I need to take care of my physical body, right? Like, I went and took a hot tub in the middle of the night. I like did a cold plunge, the whole thing.
Look at you. She was like, I am officially up now.
I was up. I mean, my body was like, you're not going back to sleep. Like, Advil's not going to cure this. You know what I mean? Like, I need some time with you. I need you to take care of me, right? And again, being a mom and having newborns wake you up, you kind of you're like, oh, it's not convenient, but it's happening now. But what that means is that the next day, you're groggy. You're kind of tired because you literally lost an hour of sleep, right? And so for me, that's that adventure paradox. Is like maybe that next day I was going to train hard, I was going to go do this thing, and instead I'm like, ooh, and I've learned from experience. I'm 45 now, right? I've had days where I went out and did something when I was a little bit tired, and then I twisted my ankle, and now I'm dealing with that for 6 months. By the grace of God, that didn't happen this week because I pivoted. That's that paradox, right? Like, you need to be of sound body and mind. You might have had this big plan, and then a loved one dies. And now nothing else matters. You are going to be at their funeral this weekend. You're not going to make it to your best friend's wedding, right? Like, whatever the adventure is, the ultimate adventure, the paradox, is connecting to something bigger that's also connected to us, that circulates like your sleep, what really matters to you, right? Because it's often not the thing you say it is. Like, women would come to me and they'd be like, I really want to lose weight. I'm committed to lose weight, and we'd come up with their X factor and the whole thing. And I'd be like, okay, cool, yeah, how's it going? And they'd be like, well, I committed to go out with my girlfriends all weekend. We ate a lot of nachos, a lot of this, a lot of that. I'm like, yeah, well, the scale's going up. So you're actually really committed to eat whatever you want, which is cool. But it's not the weight loss adventure then. It's the I'm going to pretend I can get there, but I'm not getting there, and then I'm upset with myself. You know what I mean? That's the paradox, right? Where we can find like what truly matters to us, what we're truly connected to, but all of us are connected to these things regardless of whether or not we want to acknowledge them, right? Sleep, big paradox. Taking care of your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual body. You're going to have to do that no matter whether or not you get to climb that mountain. And I'm all for goals. Just to be clear, I'm all for setting the adventure, but also living in the reality of the day-to-day paradox of what it takes to get there, whether you make it or not, right? To be your best person.
Beautiful. I wasn't going to go here, but I am now, just based off of several answers. What does your spirituality practice look like? I take it I don't even have to ask if you have one because of how interconnected you are. So what does that look like? And how do you stay centered in your relationship with God or higher power, whatever you frame it as?
Yeah. For me, it's really important to bookend my day. So I start with God, ask Him to direct my thoughts, actions, deeds. And then at the end of the day, I check in with how I did, right? Did I miss anything? Anything I need to correct? Do I owe an amends? Anything like that, right? Then I say a prayer, rinse and repeat. And I pray throughout the day without ceasing. I'm a big fan, when I work with people on a spiritual level, I'll be like, don't forget the bathroom prayers. You know why? Because you're going to use the bathroom at least a few times throughout the day. And if you learn to check in with God every time you do, I have dropped a knee on more public bathrooms than you choose to know about, just to be honest. Because that's the moment, right? Where you're like, how am I really? Am I checking in? Am I, sometimes I'll pray like we've been doing this with our girls over spring break. We said, all right, we're going to do an educational lesson on the fruits of the spirit. And there are, I believe, 8 of them, right? One of them is self-control. I brought that up. Patience is one of them. Gentleness is one of them. I'm not going to get into all of them. Love, joy. You asked me joy already. And each day we're going to pick one, and then we're going to try to demonstrate it throughout the day. And if we decide to switch fruits of the spirit or we take over someone else's, we can trade, right? But like the whole point is, are you really feeding the good wolf in you, right? And how can you do that? And how can we do it in a way that's child's play, that's not like super complicated? Because inevitably you are going to have moments of anger, moments of jealousy, right? Moments of not feeling like you belong, not feeling good enough, right? Those are going to come up. But are we pairing those and dressing them with the fruits of the spirit, which are going to get us back on track? I might not feel good enough, but horses bring me joy. And even when nothing makes sense, we're going to go out to the barn and hang out, and I don't even know what's going to come of it, you know? Like that. Horses are a big part of my spiritual practice, a big part of grounding, connecting with them. Right now, they're shedding like crazy because it's springtime. So all of our spring retreats are getting to witness these like mustaches of hair coming off. It's so fun. And I mean, to me, it's about the seasons of horses, but it's also about the seasons of our lives. So, like right now, I'm in a season where I have 11 animals and 2 young children and a husband, and I got a lot going on and a business that's taking off and all of these things. And it's like, I can't do any of that without God. That's who I'm working for.
Beautiful answer. Okay, so I want to make this a little more tangible for the woman listening. If someone right now is feeling stuck, disconnected, or like they're living a life that doesn't feel aligned or like it's theirs, what would you tell them?
Mm. I think the first question that's coming through is like, get back to what lit you up as a kid.
Love it.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's for me, horses have always been a through line. There was a moment where my sister, another horse friend who we grew up with, shared with me that she was like, I don't really know if horses are my thing or if that was just Cat's thing, right? Was I just into it because my sister was into it? And I was like, really? No way. Because, like, we were both really into horses, we were both playing model horses. But she had to find her way and really ask herself, like, is this really mine? Is it for me? Or was it someone else, like that trainer or mentor or sister or someone who, like, really put that shadow over us? So I think if someone's feeling lost and they don't really know what's theirs, hey, go back to what you did know. And then one of my favorite life coaching questions when someone's like, I don't know, what do you say? Well, what would you know if you did know?
Yeah, seriously, one of my favorites. Same. Okay. Curious in your take, and we have 2 more questions before the quickfire round. But this one, what are 3 simple ways a woman can start changing their life and shifting now?
Hmm. Number 1, develop a prayer practice, some sort of spiritual practice asking for what you want. Number 2, are you ready? Learn to sit in meditation and silence. These 2 go together, but honestly, if you just do one and you're always asking and you don't sit and wait for the answers to come through, gosh, we women, we can put a lot out there, you know? I don't remember what it is, but I think women, we put out like 70,000 words a day and men do like 30,000 or something like that. Like when you start putting a woman on a prayer path, like, boy, they're going to be prayers. But if you pair it with meditation, right? And then I think the third thing is some way to be of service to someone or something close to you that's tangible that you can like put your hands on, like a horse or a dog or an animal, right? I think that we can get really into what we think we need for ourselves and forget to connect with others. Now, the other thing, my caveat to that is we women can be pretty hardcore caretakers. So if a woman is like, wait a minute, like me, if someone gave me that, I'd be like, dude, I am taking care of a lot of other things, right? Then I would say, okay, we can turn the mirror around. Are you taking care of you? All those things you would do for your best friend, for everybody else. You're going to bring them a snack. You're going to get them a massage. You want to take them out for nails. You're going to get them their favorite smoothie. Have you done that for you?
Well, that's a mic drop right there. And I'm sure our listeners are going to want to dive deeper. So, what are you most excited about? And how can they connect with your world more?
Heck yeah. Well, I don't know when this is dropping, but you can always find me on the adventureparadox.com. That's my website. And on April 17th, which is the new moon, we are doing part 2 of the Spiritual Horse Seeker Summit with a live panel of 4 at 10 a.m. MST. If you listen to this after that, it will be evergreen. So go check that link out, theadventureparadox.com/horseseeker. My favorite social handle is Facebook. I'm old school. Yes, I'm on Instagram and all the others too. Cat Caldwell Myers. You can also find me the Adventure Paradox. But if you want to check out our retreats, if you want to check out the Horse Adventure coaching certification, if you want to learn more about podcasting and how you could learn how to podcast in the presence of horses and find your voice, you can find all those things at theadventureparadox.com.
Beautiful. And we're going to do a quick fire round. Think one word to one sentence. Are you ready for me?
I'm ready.
All right. A book that's changed your life that was not mentioned earlier.
Energy medicine.
Ooh, I have to check that one out. Word that describes your current season.
Grounded.
Beautiful. A song that instantly lifts your mood.
Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above. Okay.
Love it. You're the first person I've asked that's actually started to sing it.
Well, I don't
What
know
a
the name of
vibe.
the song, so that's why I had to do it that way. I just said, okay, it's coming through. There you go.
I think it's actually called Our God is an Awesome God.
Perfect. Great.
That's okay. I love it. A non-negotiable to fuel your power outside of horses.
Sleep.
Nice answer. Best advice you've ever received in a single sentence.
No one else is going to do it for you.
Mic drop. One thing you want women to stop apologizing for.
Their bodies.
Love it. So, Kat, this conversation actually felt like an exhale. There's something so powerful about being reminded that we don't have to force our way into alignment. We get to return to ourselves. And I think what landed most is this, that our bodies, nature, and even the presence of animals, they don't ask us to perform. They invite us to be real and authentic. So for anyone listening, if something stirred in you today, if you felt something soften, open, or even get a little uncomfortable, it's not random. It's your body speaking to you. And you don't have to have all the answers right now. Just stay with awareness, because that's where everything begins. Kat, I just want to thank you again for the work you do, the spaces you create, and for the way you guide women back home to themselves. And as always, this is your reminder. You don't have to abandon yourself to become her. You have to come home back to her.
Thank you, Anita. I love you and your medicine so much.
I love you too. Oh my God, such a great conversation.